you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, on behalf of Lifeline Australia, can I thank all of you for coming out in such large numbers to support the great work that Lifeline does. Lifeline has been absolutely delighted to have a relationship since 2008 with the MLC Community Foundation. The MLC Community Foundation is dedicated to supporting great causes in the Australian community, and since 2008 they have been the major supporter of Lifeline in Australia. I'm very pleased that earlier this year they agreed to support us again for another 2 years to the tune of $450,000 a year, which is extraordinarily generous. So I would like to acknowledge from and associated with the MLC Community Foundation, Andrew Hagger, the Group Executive NAB Wealth and the CEO of MLC, Andrew Howard, the Chairman of the MLC Community Foundation, and Luke Brannigan, the Executive Manager of the MLC Foundation. We greatly appreciate this relationship. We acknowledge that it is a very significant amount of money and it goes to help us do the great work that we do.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ian Thorpe. So please give him a big round of applause. At what age did you realise you weren't just a swimmer, you were a gun swimmer? When did you first realise you were elite in the pool?
It was probably when I started winning medals when I was 9 and 10, and then 11 and 12 winning lots of medals at an age group level. And I just started competing, I think, when I was 12 in some of the open races against the men. But I always thought that I was going to be a child prodigy that kind of burn out, like so many other athletes that this happens to. So I never realised that I was going to make it to the national team. I always felt that I was going to be too young to compete in Sydney. And it was, even when I made my first national team when I was 14, I still didn't think, I may make it. That's how I felt. And then when I won the World Championships, when I just turned 15, I then realised, oh wow, this is starting to play out that I'm probably going to be there and probably be expected to win.
And so there's a connection that comes to Lifeline from the famous Homebush pool before it's even the Olympic pool, isn't that? You swam in that pool in 1999 and won some money for setting a record?
I did. I was the first athlete to break a world record in that pool. So there was an amount of prize money that came with that. And I'd made a decision a little bit earlier that I didn't really want to swim for money. Sounds a bit odd. But I decided that I wanted it to be my love, my passion, and so any prize money I'd won, I felt I'll give it away to charity. And at the time, I decided that I'd contribute it to the fantastic work that Lifeline does, and also to the Australian Children's Cancer Institute.
Why Lifeline at that stage? Did you?
Looking back, I really, at that stage, I'd actually been to a call centre before making that decision. But I realised what really is the frontline work that Lifeline do in Australia, and the importance of that work. And I don't know why I felt such a connection at that stage, but it felt like the right thing to do.
Many world records, many amazing moments follow, but eventually so does the realisation that things aren't going perfectly. You're disarmingly honest about this in your book, This Is Me. Did you suddenly just wake up one morning and realise I'm living with depression, or did it come to you slowly?
No, I think it comes slowly. I think when you're younger, you don't. I don't think you have the language or know the way to be able to express how you're feeling and what you're going through, who to speak to. And you don't know these complicated terminologies around what you're feeling, that you feel just a little bit out of place here, you feel a little bit uncomfortable, you feel a bit down when you shouldn't. And so I realised that I've had depression for most of my life, but it wasn't until later in my life that I was actually able to say, no, I actually struggle with depression. But I just didn't want anyone to know. I wanted it to just be this kind of thing that I dealt with myself and handled myself, and by the way, which is the wrong approach. Speak to people that are close to you.
Are you comfortable telling people how how bad it got, how low you got?
Am I comfortable? No. I'm not, comfortable talking about it, but it's important to talk about it. So, you weigh it up, and I think it's better to be able to speak about these things openly and honestly than to take the approach that I did initially. And to be able to show people as well, and this is really one of the reasons that I decided to include this chapter in my book. I wasn't going to, but it was to show people that you can still achieve. You may have to struggle at different times. It may make it a little bit harder for some people as well, but you can still achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Can I just say, Ian, in wrapping up, there was one thing I realised the other day I wanted to say to you when this interview came to an end. I know as well as I think anyone does that, for someone who's been dominant in the public eye in this country for almost 15 years now, and there have been times when a small portion of the public concentration on you and the media concentration on you has been about inane or salacious rubbish, and I'm sure there are times that maybe that might have felt to you a lot more intense a scrutiny than a lot of people wanted it to be. Can I just say that for every person who's ever been fascinated by that sort of dross, there are hundreds or probably tens of thousands of Australians who just love you, and not just because you set a couple of world records, but for, 5 gold medals, awesome, loved every one of them, but for what you stand for and the message that you give, in particular to young men, and young men who might be struggling with issues, of the way a young man can lead his life. I think there's a lot of people who think we'd be living in a better Australia if there were more people like you. So thank you so much for your time today, mate.
Cheers.
And in the run-up to 24/7 next year and beyond, and battling with the little IKEA football team thing. Ian Thorpe, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
I'd now like to ask Andrew Haggar, the Group Executive for NAB Wealth, to offer a vote of thanks to Ian and Adam.
Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing lunch. Doesn't it feel like a real privilege to be here today and to hear all the things that Ian has just been saying? There's a real resonance, I think, in the room to the cause of Lifeline and the great work, Jane, that you and John and the team do. And I've heard a couple of statistics today about 1 million calls coming our way, 1 in 4 Australians suffering from mental health. It's for these reasons that MLC is really proud to be involved with you. It's for these reasons that we've renewed for another 2 years. This was mentioned by John earlier on, and it's a delight for us to provide money to you, and I think for all of us here contributing today in every way that we can, it's a really great thing to do, so thank you very much for that. And to Ian, I echo Adam's comments that I think we feel as proud of you today, listening to you and your story and your courage in giving that story, as we did as we cheered you on at all hours of the night and day, winning those gold medals. Thanks very much for your honesty today. And together we can really make a difference on this great cause. Thank you all very much.
I do want to finish with a few thanks. Yet again, to our partners at the MLC Community Foundation. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you very much for all of your support.